I made a special apple juice just for you. You're gonna drink it, right? Saying this, my mother-in-law, with a determined smile, offers me a glass. We had brought our child for the first time to my husband's family's home after giving birth, and she handed me a cute little glass. Filled with plenty of apple juice, I took it and went to the kitchen, only to pour the contents down the sink. What are you doing? If you didn't want it, you could have just said so, but to throw it away right in front of me. I slowly turned around to my mother-in-law's scream. When our eyes met, she seemed to falter for a moment but then clung to my stunned husband, berating how terrible a woman I was. Mrs. Grubb. I called her in a deliberately low voice, and she visibly flinched, her shoulders jerking. As if she was hiding something. I held back a sigh. Mrs. Grubb, this isn't apple juice, is it? It's really this. My name is Amy, 28 years old. I married my husband of the same age, Mike, after a year of dating, 3 years ago. We are a working couple. I have continued working as an employee at a general company since graduating, even after getting married. In the midst of all this, I was able to get pregnant with our long-awaited baby last year, so I decided to take maternity leave. Mike took very good care of me while I was pregnant, doing most of the housework during my morning sickness. He struggled with cooking, which he wasn't good at, but I'm really grateful to him. We were able to have a healthy baby boy just the other day. We named him Tim. Mike, who attended the birth, cried with joy when he saw Tim. He's so cute, like an angel. Amy, thank you so much for all the hard work. Mike, you're crying too much. Life began with Mike, Tim, and me, and I was filled with happiness. Mike was a good husband and a good father. He was very proactive with housework and childcare. Blessed with a kind husband and a cute child, I was spending peaceful and calm days. But there was one big concern. It was my in-laws, who lived an hour's drive from our house. My in-laws are both retired, and they seem to have received a lot of retirement money, so they travel abroad all the time. Traveling abroad is not a problem at all, but they always buy a lot of sweets for souvenirs. Generally, this might be a pleasant thing. But I have a peanut allergy, so I'm very particular about what I eat. I once accidentally ate a peanut containing sweet and suffered from respiratory distress. So I explained to my in-laws about the allergy and asked them to avoid food, but... Mr. Grubb, Mrs. Grubb, I've told you before, I have a peanut allergy. So, I'd like you to avoid things like chocolate that might contain peanuts. I can't always tell what's in foreign products by looking at the ingredients. What are you talking about? The best souvenirs are local food. There are many things you can't easily eat here. And yet you complain, isn't that a bit too much? She is right. We want you guys to eat local food too. But to complain without eating it, isn't that rude? Both my mother-in-law and father-in-law had no understanding of allergies, and they scolded me. Even when Mike said to them, "You're both taking this allergy thing too lightly. If it accidentally goes into her mouth, it can turn into something serious. In the worst case, it could be irreparable. Please take it more seriously." They didn't listen. Moreover, my in-laws travel many times in a short period, and they hand over the souvenirs all at once. Since they sometimes give me things they bought months ago, there are often items past their expiration date. Hey, Dad, Mom, this has expired again. Don't send us stuff like this. At Mike's pointing, my in-laws make a face as if they don't understand what the big deal is. It's a best before date, not an expiration date. It's not spoiled, so don't be so uptight about it. Even though it's something sent to her son, my mother-in-law thinks it's no big deal, laughing and saying, "It's just fine. You're being too strict." She shows no remorse. This has added to our estrangement with my in-laws. We did report the birth of our child, but since they were on an overseas trip, we hadn't yet introduced Tim to his grandparents. They're coming back from their trip tomorrow, and we've agreed to go visit them at their house next weekend as a family of 3. When the weekend came, we headed for the in-laws' house by car. It isn't Mike and Amy, it's been a while. Come on in, come on in. My mother-in-law welcomed us with a smile, and my father-in-law also greeted us warmly, saying, "Glad you could come." They were both very excited to meet their first grandchild for the first time and had smiles on their faces, saying, "He's adorable." So far, everything was going smoothly, and I was glad we were able to introduce Tim to his grandparents. Soon after, my mother-in-law asked, "Amy, would you like some juice?" Feeling a little startled, I asked just to be sure, "What kind of juice is it?" My mother-in-law replied with a big smile, "Apple juice, my homemade one. It's really delicious, and I want you to try it." Thinking, apple juice should be fine, there shouldn't be any peanuts in it, I was relieved. "If it's apple juice, I'll have some." "Homemade by you, that's amazing. Thank you." Just wait a moment. My mother-in-law then went to the kitchen and came back after a while. "Here you go. I've poured it into a glass for you." She handed me the glass of apple juice. I said, "Thank you," and accepted it, but immediately noticed something off, and I got up and headed for the kitchen. "Amy?" Mike asked, puzzled, but I silently poured the entire contents of the glass down the sink. "Amy, what are you doing? Throwing away the drink like that? Apologize to Mom." Mike, filled with shock and anger. My mother-in-law was also furious, saying, "To throw it away after I went to the trouble of preparing it, what's the meaning of this? It's my homemade juice. How could you?" I calmly told Mike. "Mike, I would have died if I had drunk this." No way." Mike was stunned and seemed to grasp the situation, turning pale. He asked his mother, trembling, "Mom, what was the drink you gave to Amy? Wasn't it just apple juice?" His mother answered nonchalantly, "I told you it's my homemade apple juice. There's also peanut liqueur in it. It's a cocktail." My husband, in disbelief, let out an incredulous cry. I was aghast, saying, "I knew it. I smelled peanuts. And peanut liqueur, of all things." Yes, I had been certain that there were peanuts in the drink when I put the glass to my lips, as I had strongly smelled peanuts. I hadn't thought it was alcohol. My mother-in-law snorted and said, "What's the big deal? Mixing peanut liqueur with apple juice is delicious, I heard it from the locals. This peanut liqueur is a souvenir from our overseas trip, you should be grateful to drink it." Mike was furious and yelled at his mother. "On top of it, serving alcohol to a woman who has just given birth, are you out of your mind? She's breastfeeding Tim. Anyone would know that. You've raised kids yourself. I just can't trust you anymore." Mike is beside himself with anger and sadness. However, his mother-in-law doesn't seem to care at all. "Oh, come on, Mike, don't be so angry," she says. Even the father-in-law says, "Come on, Mike, don't get so angry. Amy isn't drinking, so it's fine," nonchalantly. After all, peanut liqueur isn't the same as peanuts themselves. You're making a big deal out of it, Mike. When did you become so naggy? Maybe it's because of Amy. And it's fine to have a little alcohol while breastfeeding. These kids are so neurotic, it's driving me nuts." The mother-in-law speaks with a snide tone. It's like they don't understand allergies at all. I calmly explained to my mother-in-law, "Mrs. Grubb, peanut liqueur is obviously made from peanuts. So, if I, who have a peanut allergy, were to consume it, I could have a severe allergic reaction called anaphylactic shock." I've explained the allergic reaction over and over, but she doesn't seem to understand at all. What's anaphylactic? I think I've heard of it before, but it's a bit complicated and I don't really understand. I just wanted you to enjoy it because it's delicious. Why do I have to be blamed? It's terrible. My mother-in-law covers her face as if she's the victim. I also explain to her the risks of alcohol while breastfeeding. Mrs. Grubb, please listen carefully. Drinking alcohol while breastfeeding can transfer the alcohol to the breast milk, and it might harm Tim's health. I've heard that alcohol can reduce the quality of breast milk, and I don't want to drink it. So please don't do this ever again. I'm really begging you. You're such a nag. Enough already. Honey, help. Mike and Amy are both accusing me. My mother-in-law seeks help from my father-in-law, and he takes her side, saying, Mike, Amy, let's leave it at that. She didn't mean any harm. Then why, Mom, did you lie and say it was just apple juice? Why did you call alcohol juice? Trying to deceive and make Amy drink that. Don't mess with us. Both of you are out of your minds. Mike shouts in anger. His father yells back at him, what's that tone towards your parents? Apologize now. That's it, I'm cutting ties with you both. I'll never see you again. And you'll never see Tim again either. Mike makes a declaration of severance, and his parents retaliate. You're no son of ours anymore. Just get out of this house. Yeah, get out. Don't ever cross our threshold again. Mike says I don't need to be told that. Amy, let's go. Yes, let's go. I pick up Tim, and the three of us head for the front door. As we leave, my in-laws continue to say, this is all an exaggeration. What's an allergy anyway? It's just being spoiled. We ignore them and leave their house. In the car on the way home, Mike apologizes to me. Amy, I'm really sorry. I have so much to apologize for. First, I'm sorry for yelling when you threw away the drink. I'm really sorry for yelling without even asking why you did that. And for my mother doing such a thing. It's not something that can be forgiven with an apology, but I'm sorry. It's not your fault, Mike. But, cutting ties with your parents, was it the right thing to do? We've been estranged before, but... Yeah, of course. I couldn't continue the relationship after what happened. What would have happened if you'd been deceived into drinking it today? I chose to cut ties to protect you and Tim. Mike said, looking very dependable in my eyes. Thank you. Honestly, I was also feeling that continuing the relationship with your father and mother was impossible, so I was a little relieved when you made the declaration to sever ties. I smiled, feeling lighter at the thought that we wouldn't have to worry about my in-laws anymore. Still, why are my parents so ignorant about allergies? No matter how many times I explain it, they don't get it, or rather, they don't want to get it, Mike wonders. They probably think of it as the same kind of thing as liking or disliking food. They even said that allergies are just being spoiled. Yeah, it's scary to think that they could cause trouble in the future, being so ignorant. Well, it doesn't matter anymore since we've cut ties. Oh, I should tell Aunt Christy, who lives near my parents' house, that we've cut ties. Aunt Christy lives near Mike's parents' house, and I've met her a few times. She's cheerful and very nice. Yeah, it might be best to let her know. Yep, I'll call her tomorrow. And so we returned home to our peaceful daily lives. A few months later, a call came through to me. It was during a weekday afternoon when Mike was at work, and I was playing with Tim. Since it was from an unregistered number, I answered it, wondering who it could be. Hello, Amy? It's been a while, it's me, Christy. I'm sorry for calling so suddenly. The call was from Aunt Christy. Oh, Aunt Christy, it's been a long time. Sorry for calling you all of a sudden. I just called Mike and got your number from him. I already talked to Mike, but something serious has happened. Something serious? Well, the story I heard from Aunt Christy was shocking. My mother-in-law had been sued, it turns out. Apparently, she had intended to give us a lot of souvenirs from our overseas trip the day we cut ties with her, but because of what had happened, she was unable to do so. She had given out treats and other souvenirs to neighbors. However, the unmanaged and long-neglected souvenirs had expired and spoiled. Some of the neighbors who ate them without knowing this fell ill from stomach pains, and some even collapsed from allergic shock.
What? How could this happen?
I was so surprised that I lost my words.
Yes, that's what happened. Apparently, she's being sued by a neighbor, and I heard it from Kate.
Kate is the mother-in-law's name. And Aunt Christy is her sister.
Did my mother-in-law know that the neighbor had allergies?
It seems she did know.
The neighbor was allergic to walnuts, and she confirmed with Kate that there were no walnuts in these gifts. But she lied about it. Wow!
It's just like something my mother-in-law would do. She probably thought an allergy was like a simple dislike.
So now it's a big problem, and she's being sued for deliberately causing harm. I'm really shocked, and I've decided to cut ties with Kate too. She's apparently being sued for quite a bit of money, so she might call you for help, so I wanted to tell you first.
I see.
Thank you very much for contacting me. Don't feel obligated to help if she calls, it's all her own fault. And, although it's late, congratulations on the birth. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
It's been hot lately, so Aunt Christy, take care of yourself as well.
And so, we hung up. That night, when Mike returned home, he looked exhausted and asked if I had heard from Aunt Christy.
Yes, you mean about your mom? Yeah. I thought she might cause trouble someday, but I never thought it'd come to this. It was the right decision to keep you and Tim away from her. I wonder if the neighbors are okay? Especially the one with the walnut allergy. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to have been too serious. My mother really did something unbelievable. But I'm not gonna help her, and she needs to reflect on what she did. Amy, you can ignore her if she calls. She'll probably ask for money. Okay, I understand.
Just as Mike said, I earnestly hoped my mother-in-law would reflect on her actions. A few days later, as Aunt Christy and Mike had predicted, a call came from my mother-in-law asking for help. At first, I ignored it, but the incessant ringing finally forced me to answer.
Hello? Amy, listen to me. I'm being sued even though I didn't do anything wrong. Don't you feel sorry for me?
My mother-in-law seemed to have no remorse. She was saying that she had done nothing wrong, and her lack of understanding about what was truly wrong was frightening.
We've cut ties, so please don't call again. Goodbye.
I said coldly, about to hang up, but my mother-in-law hastily stopped me.
Wait. Don't hang up yet. Please lend me some money, I'm in trouble. You've been traveling abroad a lot, so you must have some money. I've spent so much on overseas trips, and I don't have much savings left, and if I pay the compensation, I'll be broke and unable to live. Mike won't answer my calls.
Even over the phone, I could tell she was getting desperate.
Even if you say that, there's nothing I can do. I can't lend you a single cent. Do you really think I'm going to help you after what you did? I'll apologize. I was wrong, I'm sorry, okay? Just lend me some money, even a little.
My mother-in-law apologized with a reckless and indifferent attitude.
There's no value in an insincere apology. Pay the neighbors the compensation they deserve and apologize properly. Goodbye.
I firmly told her and hung up the phone. After that, my mother-in-law somehow paid the compensation, and my in-laws, who were left penniless, put their family home up for sale. But since it was a very old house, they couldn't sell it for a decent amount of money. My in-laws had to move to a rundown apartment, and many hardships awaited them. Their retirement savings were gone, and they no longer had the means to travel abroad. Both of my in-laws started working part-time jobs, diligently working every day to somehow make ends meet, but they no longer have a carefree life, and it seems like they're under a lot of stress. The once happy couple's faces have turned sour, and my father-in-law yells at my mother-in-law, saying, "It's all your fault," and apparently, that yelling can be heard outside the apartment. My mother-in-law has been calling and emailing frequently, complaining, "Your father-in-law said such horrible things to me. He used to be so kind. Can you believe how awful this is? We're fighting every day, and it's like hell." But since it's become quite annoying, Mike and I have blocked calls from my in-laws. Meanwhile, we're moving near my parents' home, and we'll be relocating. And we found out that I'm pregnant with our second child. Of course, we have no intention of letting my in-laws meet our child. We are living peacefully, and our whole family is eagerly waiting for the birth of our second child.